Welcome to Moments with Marianne. I'm so delighted we're spending this time here today. We have a very empowering show coming right up with special guest, selene-calloni-williams. And she's here today to share with us ancient shamanic yoga. Selena is here to talk with us about using the ancient secret rites of shamanic yoga to remove fears, blocks, and subconscious beliefs. So Selena's been on the show before. We've been so lucky to have her. She has a degree in psychology with a master's in screenwriting. She has authored several books and documentaries on psychology, deep ecology, shamanism, yoga, philosophy, and anthropology. A direct student of James Hillman, she studied and practiced Buddhist meditation in the forest of Sri Lanka and has studied shamanic tantric yoga. She's the founder and director of the Imaginal Academy Institute in Switzerland. Selena is also the author of the best-selling book, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality. So let's welcome to the show, selene-calloni-williams.
Hi, Marianne. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
What a joy it is to have you here and such an honor. My goodness, I love having these conversations with you. And I was so excited that we get to have another one, especially when we're talking about like shamanic yoga. And I think a lot of people here in the US are like, what is that? What is shamanic yoga?
Oh, yes. Shamanic yoga is a very ancient, primordial, ancestral, and animistic form of yoga. And its main feature is ecstasy and mystical marriage, which is the non-duality. Ecstasy is a transcendental state of consciousness, is an amplified state of consciousness, is an intensified state of awareness, of clarity, of sight. Entering this state in a shamanic yoga tradition is known as entering the psychic forest, or as I love to call it, the imaginal forest. And beware, imaginal, not imaginary, because imagination is a psychological enactment of the I. But imaginal is a place, is a dimension, is the no man land, is the earth in between, where all the opposites meet, human and divine, conscious and unconscious, life and death, visible and invisible, and is non-duality, the two in one, or better, the three in one. Because the number of non-duality is 3. The two lovers always giving oneself to the other always create a new manifestation. So there are 3 elements in non-duality: the two lovers and their creation. And these 3 elements are distinct but not separate. And this is the magic formula of a non-duality, 3 in 1, distinct but not separate. And at the end is the Trinity, which is the natural condition of everything. It is the condition in which we can find everything in nature: a tree, an eagle, a wolf, a butterfly. You see?
Yeah, I do. And I'm so glad that you took the time to explain that. When we talk about the essence of non-duality and the marriage of 3, that's where all consciousness comes from. Is that correct?
Yes, is that correct? Yes, because through the encounter of, in Sanskrit we say Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha is the spirit and Prakriti is the nature. Through this encounter, we have a manifestation, the creation. So this is the 3 in 1.
So when we talk about the Trinity, the 3 in 1, that actually is something that is within pretty much all different esoteric traditions and trainings and teachings?
Yes, of course. This is an image which is in the deep knowledge of all spiritual traditions of the world. And in shamanic yoga, this is experienced directly by the people who practice yoga, because shamanic yoga is so primordial, is so primordial and simple and direct form of yoga that everyone can experience this state of consciousness, the 3-in-1, which is an ecstatic and also an aesthetic state of consciousness. Beauty is the best expression of the Trinity, because beauty is the expression of love and of the ability to give oneself to the other, and of the manifestation of the creation that generates from this giving. And this is also the sacredness. Yes, we can call it sacredness. And it is a dimension that as a society we have lost. And we have to bring it back, absolutely, because we can't go any further without sacredness. In a desacralized society, individuals are victims of an endless array of illusionary needs, of consumerism. We have absolutely to bring a sacredness back in our life. And shamanic yoga gives a great help in that.
It's interesting because we are in this time where it seems that there's this huge separation between, people who are really going after materialism and those who are seeking their spiritual path. Is it possible to do both? I know a lot of times they say you can't serve both masters.
Oh, yes, of course, it's possible to do both. People who are spiritual can also find a great realization in life through their job, through money. Also, I think that mystics have to conquer back the power of money in order to put this power in the hand of the Mother Earth. You see, in a desacralized society, people who have power don't have knowledge, and people who have knowledge don't have power. Yes, people who have power have a certain knowledge, but it is a technical knowledge, a strategical knowledge. Is not a true wisdom. And people who have a knowledge are interested only in the seek of the truth. They are not interested in power. And so in a desacralized society, we have a huge separation between power and knowledge. And we have absolutely to fill the gap, to overcome this gap. That means that people who have the knowledge, people who are through seekers of the truth, have to try to conquer back the power of money in the society in order to give it back to the Great Mother, to the Mother Earth. Otherwise, we will end up to destroy the nature and wildlife completely. You see, we are in a great danger nowadays. But in order to help nature, we have to change the of tools, which is the thinking method. We can't help nature using the same tools by which we have destroyed it. We have absolutely to change our thinking method. And this means going back to the sacredness, or bring sacredness back in our lives. Being mystic, remember our ability to feel the spiritual joy, the spiritual happiness within our heart, and reconnect ourselves with the beginning of all things, which is love. But because we carry from our previous life a certain resistance to love in form of attachments and fears, this is a little bit difficult for us at the moment. And this is why the practice of shamanic yoga is very important, because shamanic yoga is a powerful tool to melt attachments and fears and realize where we are. In truth, we are in love. We are in a marvelous place, which is the imaginal forest. We are in non-dual state, which is our home. And we have to remember that by melting attachments and fears. And this is what shamanic yoga is for.
Well, when you started researching shamanic yoga, what was that experience like for you? Was it life-changing?
Oh, yes, completely. You see, I met my shamanic yoga teacher many years ago. I was very, very young. And when I met him, it was a reunion. The first time he saw me, he told me, it's a pleasure to meet you again. And his name was Michael Williams, but he was far from British. He had been adopted by 3 different families, and he had run away from them all within a few years. When I met him, he was living with an eagle. And I was in Sri Lanka at that time, studying Buddhism and meditation. And the encounter with shamanic yoga was for me a great experience, because it allowed me to see everything in a different way, and to do experience of joy and gratefulness and forgiveness. This experience is called pacification of memories, or better, pacification of images in shamanic yoga tradition. And is a great experience. Is the first one that people encounter on the shamanic yoga path. What pacification of images means? It means being able to evoke our memories, or the most striking images of our lives, and know them as spirits, not simply as memories, but as spirits. And then enter the emotion of the relationship between us and these images, these memories. Enter the emotions of this relationship with joy, forgiveness, gratefulness, love, in order to pacificate these spirits. And if you do that, bit by bit, you can open your mind, because you can melt your fears And you can open your inner vision because you can go beyond mental judgment and reach the power of inclusiveness. And when you are there, beyond judgment, beyond mental judgment, in the power of inclusiveness, you can see everything differently. And you can create the best future you can for yourself and for your planet by using your past emotions and your past images. And this is really a magic art, is a shamanic art, the art of pacification of images.
Does it take a long time to get to the place where you can really pacify those images so you can move beyond what holds you back?
No, it doesn't take time. As soon as you know how to do, you start to do it immediately, and immediately you receive benefits from that. Because you see, we live in a conscious universe, but we have the wrong impression that events are caused by the mechanical law of cause and effect, which is not the law of karma. The law of karma is an aesthetic, a poetic law of action and reaction. But our mind presents reality to us in form of mechanical events caused by the law of cause and effect. But it's not true. Events, as the ancients know, are entities, spirits, or as Socrates said, they are daimones, gods and goddesses. They are not materialistic or mechanical facts. They are spirits. And so if you start to pacify your spirits, the events that you have in your background, in your experience, immediately your future starts to change. And people who don't know this art maybe call it magic, but it's not magic. Is something that comes from a deep wisdom, a deep knowledge, which is a knowledge of the heart. Because we not only have a thought of the mind, we also have a thought of the heart. And if we can think through the thought of the heart, we can have a wider wisdom, a wider knowledge. You see?
Yeah, I see how that all comes together. It's interesting when we look at how many transformations can take place with the mother mantra and using shamanic yoga. Because I think a lot of times people might get hung up with the word, the mother mantra, because they don't really understand what that means. But you look at the ancient origins of shamanic yoga, and there's so much energetically that can really be done to kind of move people to that next level that they're looking to get to.
Yes. We call it mother mantra because the core of shamanic yoga tradition is a mantra. And this mantra requires an initiation, and it has the power of reabsorbing or withdrawing reality. You see, everything is a dream, an apparition, a projection. This perfectly matches the Buddhist concept of samsara will, the will of illusions. And we have to be able to bring back all our projection to their original nature, which is image. Everything is an image, everything is a dream, and we have to bring back all the events to their original nature of images. But it's not easy to do that because of the conditioning of the world. And so a mantra, a powerful mantra, can help us a lot because it can act at a very deep level, at a vibrational level, in the deepest level of our body, in the mind of the cells, which is a vibrational consciousness. So the Mother Mantra is a very powerful mantra, but there are also some other mantras in the Mother Mantra traditions that don't require a strong initiations. Like, for instance, if I can give a mantra now.
Oh, please, yes.
Yes. Like, for instance, the mantra O Ratun, which is the mantra, which is a mantra used in the pacification process, because the sound O, it's you. The sound Ra is the image that you want to pacificate. For instance, the image of your mother, the image of your father, the image of your childhood, for instance, and or the image of one striking event of your life. So, O, it's you. Ra is the image that you want pacificate, the event that you want pacificate, and Tun is your relationship, the most striking emotion of this relationship. When you repeat Ora Tun, you must evoke an event and enter the emotion of your relationship with this event. Enter the emotion with gratefulness, forgiveness, and love. And you must recognize the event as a spirit, as a god or a goddess, as your guide spirit, for instance. And then you should be willing to create the best future you can for yourself and for your planet through this event, through the emotion of your relationship. Oratun is a very powerful mantra for the pacification of images and can be used in any occasions. Simple but powerful.
Yes, it really is. And it's interesting when people make this conscious choice to, it's not really even reframe, but to change the energy of these events that have held them back. That's where all the magic starts to happen.
Yes, because usually people put the events, which are entities, spirits, in the cage of mental judgment. And so the events, which are spirit, become angry for that. And this is why we have to pacificate the events. Otherwise, we have a lot of spirits angry spirit, angry ghosts that follow us. And we can't live in peace.
Well, it seems a lot of this anger is the past events as well that are coming back in a way to haunt us until we deal with them.
Oh, yes. Our past haunts us until we deal with it. Yes. Mm.
So I know that you talk about how our survival instinct plays a part in our evolution of consciousness. And I'd love for you to share a little bit of that for our listeners.
Oh, yes. But survival instinct is a means, a tools of sacredness. Because sacredness is the ability to give one to the other in order to create, to manifest a new creation. And giving must be conscious, aware. And so the instinct of survival help us to give ourselves consciously. But it has not to be accompanied by the fear of death. We must realize that as long as we don't know how to die and be born again, we will remain unhappy wanderers on a dark earth. So we have to learn how to die and then be born again in order to overcome the fear of death. Life and death are simultaneous. But the Chitta Maya, as the Buddhists say, the deceit of our consciousness, make us see the life and death separate, distinct and separate. They are distinct, but they are not separate. And so we have to understand the instinct of survival, which is in nature, as an ability as a component, as a form of sacredness, through which nature can offer itself in a deep way, in a worth way, in a precious way. But we have absolutely to overcome the fear of death, because this is our biggest limitation. And the only way to do that is to undertake a rite of passage. And a rite of passage in shamanic tradition is a rite in which we can die and be born again, cross the great threshold. The great threshold can be crossed in two directions, from life to death and from life to the time before birth. And I think that everyone should do that in both directions in order to remember who they are and remember their talents, their abilities, their powers, and their unity with the spirit. You see, it's a big journey. It's a shamanic journey.
Well, on that note, we're going to pause here for a quick break. We've been speaking with Selene-Calloni-Williams in regards to the ancient practices of shamanic yoga. You've been listening to Moments with Marianne. We'll be right back after these messages.
Internationally recognized and award-winning author Judy Goodman works and teaches outside the box of limited thinking. Working with people from every walk of life, her goal is to empower you to be the best you can be, no matter what the challenge is. Born with the gift of seeing beyond our normal vision, she has an extraordinary gift of working with every challenge. Teaching beyond conventional wisdom, her work is described as life-changing. Visit judygoodman.com. That's judygoodman.com.
There comes a moment when you realize you're somewhere special, when you discover that each beautiful creature that you see has been rescued from a life of absolute horror and brought to this incredibly free place. Here's where their lives were forever changed and where yours will as well. Discover over 500 tigers, bears, and lions at the brand new visitor center at the Wild Animal Sanctuary just outside Denver. For more information, visit wildanimalsanctuary.org. Discover true freedom at the Wild Animal Sanctuary.
There are nearly 2 million Americans living with amputation. Many live right here in San Antonio. Becoming an amputee can be scary, frustrating, isolating, but there's no reason to feel alone. The San Antonio Amputee Foundation is here to help support you and guide you toward resources such as home and car modifications and even prosthetic limbs. For more information or to make a donation, visit saamputee.org. We'll help you live a full, active life, one step at a time. San Antonio Amputee Foundation, healing limbs, hearts, and souls.
If not me, then who? This ethos is driving the Travis Manion Foundation to empower veterans and families of fallen heroes to develop character in future generations. In 2007, Marine First Lieutenant Travis Manion was killed in Iraq while saving his wounded teammates. Travis's legacy lives on in the 5 words he spoke before leaving for his final deployment. If not me, then who? Guided by this mantra, veterans continue their service, developing strong relationships in the community, and thrive in their post-military lives. Visit TravisManion.org and ensure the character of our nation's heroes lives on in the next generation. If not me, then who?
Welcome back to Moments with Marianne. We're here today with special guest Selene-Calloni-Williams, who's sharing with us the ancient practices of shamanic yoga. Now, before we went for break, we were talking about this spiritual journey, the part of our spiritual evolution, and how it always seems that we come to this place where we're reaching a new plateau in our spiritual development and enlightenment. When someone starts working with the Mother Mantra, do they get that same leveling out as well, where they'll work on issues and it plateaus and then they're working on another one?
Oh, yes. When someone starts to work with Mother Mantra, improve level by level. And you see, Dostoevsky said, beauty will save the world. And this is something that on the path of shamanic yoga, you can experience very, very strongly. Because beauty is willingness to love, is poetry. And shamanism is poetry, is a poetic experience of life. Every one of us can do this experience, but we have to discover a power, to remember a power within us. And through the practice of the Mother Mantra, this can be done step by step, level by level, until the full remembrance, which is a really beautiful experience, is the experience of ecstasy.
Well, when we talk about the experience of ecstasy, is that also a place of inner peace, of belonging? What is that like?
Oh, ecstasy is an experience beyond mind. You see, when you are in ecstasy, all the images of your life are pacified because you are beyond mental judgment, and you are in the inclusiveness, and you are in the 3 in 1. And so life and death, visible and invisible, conscious and unconscious, are perfectly unite, distinct but not separate. And this is the condition of a creation. When you are in ecstasy, you are the co-creator of your reality, because you are at the beginning of all things, where everything takes place, and you can create your reality. You are no more a victim of events. You are the co-creator of events within your guide spirit, with the divinity. And ecstasy is a so natural condition, and it's so simple to get in there, but so difficult because we have a mind, which is a great obstacle to that. We have absolutely to go beyond our mind, and for that we have to melt attachments and fears, because our mind works on attachments and fears. And when we are beyond the mind, we are not without thinking. We are in another mind. We are in a supramental vision. So going beyond mind doesn't mean losing the power of thinking, but reach a wider thinking power, a wider thinking method. You see, mm-hmm. And we have to do that nowadays in order to help nature, because we can't help nature using the same tool by which we have destroyed it, the thinking method, the judgmental thinking method. We have to go beyond this.
Yeah, without nature, it really disturbs the balance. When we talk about, if I understand this correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, it disturbs the balance if we talk about the not just our world environment and how we live in it, but also the trilogy itself and how we come to a place of inner peace.
Yes. Nature is absolutely a great teacher for us. We have to save it. We have to save wildlife, and we have to stay in nature as much as possible, because by staying in nature, we can learn so much. Only by staying in nature, you see, nature is beauty, and beauty is sacredness, as I said, is the ability to give oneself in order to create over themselves. And nature and beauty also is impermanence. You see, if you think at a flower is beautiful because it's impermanent. If you think at a flower, a plastic flower that never ends, is not beauty. It is a plastic flower. Evanescence, impermanence is a component of beauty. And so if you stay in nature, you stay in beauty. And when you are surrounded by beauty, you can melt your fear of death, because you can do the experience of impermanence, of evanescence, without a fear. And so, staying in nature, you melt your fear, you open your mind, you connect back with sacredness, and this is very important. Nature is a really great teacher for us.
Well, it really teaches us the impermanence of life as well, and to appreciate being in the stages that we are in.
Yes. Nature helps us to love ourselves and to love our world. You see, when we are in nature, we are in love, and love is always the two in one, or better, the three in one. When we are in love, when we are in the condition of love, we can separate our consciousness from ourselves, and we can see ourselves from outside. And this is the best way to love ourselves. Being able to look at ourselves from outside. And nature can help us to do that, because nature is love, and love is always the condition of three in one. If we stay in our sense of I, in our ego, we are only one. But if you can reach nature, we can reach love. We are three in one. And in this condition, we can look at ourselves from outside and love ourselves. And if we love ourselves, at the end, we love everything, because there are no separation between us and all the other things.
You know, it's interesting. You have people that feel like their souls and their bodies recharge when they go to the ocean or they go to the mountains, but it always deals with being in nature to get this spiritual and energetic recharge.
Oh, yes. Yes, nature helps us to recharge ourselves, and also in the Mother Mantra tradition is known a practice called soul hunting. When we are in nature, we can take the spirits of beauty with us by repeating a mantra, for instance, the mantra Oratun, and asking to the spirits of nature, the spirits of beauty, to come with us. By repeating the mantra and by praying, come with me, come with me, come with me. And is a beautiful shamanic practice which can regenerate our batteries, regenerate our soul, our body, and our emotion. The hunt for the soul in nature is a beautiful shamanic practice.
Now, is that something that typically you need someone who is a shaman that can walk you through that practice? Is it something that they could pick up the Mother Mantra and do themselves? It sounds like it's a little bit more in depth than that.
Oh, people can do that by themselves. For instance, reading my book, they can learn a lot. I wrote the book about the Mother Mantra and shamanic yoga on this purpose, to help people to practice shamanic yoga by themselves. Of course, if I can come to a retreat, to a seminar, they can learn much more. They can be initiated. Initiation is really important tool, because nobody can go beyond the mind using the mind. We need another tool to go beyond the mind. And this is initiation. So my advice is start reading the book and practice the exercises, the spiritual exercises that are on the book. And then when you can, do a seminar or a retreat. I offer also webinars through my website, also in English, or you can come to a seminar all over the world. I give seminar in many places, in Europe, in Japan, in the US, in UK, and you can come to a seminar and receive an initiation.
Well, I know you've got quite a few seminars coming up, and we'll list those, towards the end of this discussion here. And I know we have a little bit more time. When we talk about shamanic yoga, I would love for you to kind of explain a little bit of what that's like. Does someone have to be a yogi who's done yoga for years? If it's someone that has a hard time, being actually physically moving, is this something that they can incorporate? What does this look like for people who pick this up and start working with it?
There are many aspects. There are, for instance, the flowing sequences of shamanic yoga, which are yoga postures done in a sequence with some kind of breath control, imitating the animals' movements, and those are very special body exercises. You can find some example of these flowing sequences on my website. And then we have a vast array of healing practices that are done using the power of the mantra, the mother mantra. And also we have so-called spiritual exercises of morning and evening, which are exercises and practices to met attachments and fears and to withdraw the projections, and then we have a lot of rite of passage, different rite of passage that can be learned and done. And redone and done again and again. And every time you do or you repeat a rite of passage, you can understand more intensely. You can see more intensely through your inner eyes. You can experience more intensely the state of ecstasy. Because you see, everything is a question of intensity. And by doing and doing again the practice of shamanic yoga, your intensity of experience increase. And day by day, you are more happy, you have a bigger and more intense clarity of sight, intensity of vision. At the end, you are more alive, because being alive is not a consequence of being born. It's something that we must conquer, we must acquire. You see, we must gain day by day.
You get a lot of people who, say that they are just kind of going through life and going through the motions, and they've really lost happiness, hope, feeling of purpose. And to be able to regain just an ounce of that would mean so much. And so this practice, can bring people back into that state where they're starting to feel that inner joy.
Oh, yes, absolutely. In 2013, I was asked to become a sort of herald by the Shaman Union, which is an association of Siberian hereditary shamans, who are concerned about nature and aim to transform the current human being into a happier and freer and more fulfilled creature. Because if we are happier, of course we are more eco-friendly. If we have anger or depression within us, we don't care about nature. Of course, we have an hard life. How can we care about nature? How can we help nature if we have an hard life ourselves? So make people happier is a big aim of shamans nowadays. Make people happier, because if people are happier, they are more peaceful, more kind with nature, and save nature is the biggest goal of shamans nowadays. Because a shaman can't exist without nature. A shaman is a human being which is inseparable from nature. Like a wolf, like an eagle. It's not an animal, it's a human being, but is inseparable from nature, exactly as a wolf or an eagle or a butterfly.
Well, it's interesting, as we look at ourselves and our place in the universe and on this planet, we are not separate from nature either, but we tend to do that quite often. And I think it's part of our evolutionary spiritual process is to get back to this place of really non-duality.
Oh, yes. It is a part of our process, losing non-duality and recover it, remember it. This is the process. When we come here in this world, we forget. We forget non-duality, we forget love, we forget our home, which is love. And we have to remember it. Life is a path of remembrance. We have to remind ourselves of love. We have to remind ourselves of the time of the beginning, the place of the beginning, which is the place of love, where everything is distinct but not separate from divinity. And this is what life is meant for. I mean, life is a journey of remembrance.
Well, and when we look at the ancient traditions of, the ancient shamanic practice and shamanic yoga, and we look at the mother mantra, it is much more than a yoga practice. There's more information there on actually moving spiritually to another, I don't want to say like a position, but another place that we're really desiring to be.
Oh, yes, of course. Shamanic yoga is not like yoga that people know usually. is not only about yoga posture or breath control. Is a very deep spiritual path which can bring us to the origin of all things. It comes from ancient time, it comes from primordial, ancestral time, before we lost our awareness. And so it brings within itself the symbols and the forces, the energies that can awake us to the memory of the beginning.
Yeah.
Primitive is not simply something which is close by animal state. Primitive is something which is close to the divinity state.
Well, and I so appreciate that you explained that, because I think a lot of times when people think of shamanic yoga, they're not quite sure exactly where that's going to lead them. You know, they look at it and go, gosh, is this going to be part of a yoga practice? Is it going to be part of consciousness and a deeper dive into non-duality? You know, what is it that we're focusing on? And it's all of it.
Yes. I think that people have to know that a shaman is basically a psychopomp, a ferryman, or a fairy woman, someone who can cross the great threshold from life to death, or from life to the time before birth, and carry others with him or with her. And this is the most important aspect of shamanism. And shamanic yoga is made of that, of this experience.
So what are some of the things that people can expect when they dive into, you know, their own shamanic yoga practice? Because I know there's a lot of ancient teachings that go with this.
Oh, yes. There are a lot of ancient teachings. But you see, all the ancient teachings, all the ancient metaphysical and mystic traditions have a same core, a similar aspect. And this is what I call the withdrawal of projection, the reabsorption of reality. All the ancient spiritual traditions are meant to help people to bring all the events of their life back to their natural origin, which is dreams, projection, apparition. And this is depicted as a mystical marriage in all the spiritual traditions of the world. Think of Hinduism and of the union between Shiva and Shakti, Shiva and Parvati, the divine Shakti. Or think of Buddhism, think of the esoteric Buddha, which is the Buddha depicted in the erotic union with his companion. Think of Christianity and think of the union between Sophia and Christ. Sophia is wisdom and Christ is love. and wisdom and love have never to be separated. Or think think of esoteric Islam, Sufism. Think of poets like Rumi, who praises the carnal love between the human and the divine. Think of the Song of Songs and the union of Solomon and his bride. In every spiritual traditions of the world, there is the same symbol. And this symbol is the mystical marriage. For alchemists, alchemic weddings. And this is the main symbol in shamanic yoga tradition. This is what we call the shamanic eroticism. The shamanic eroticism is a very high spiritual path of reunion between human and divine through the most important, the most creative energy of life, which is the erotic energy. And this is a very powerful path that can't be explained further here, but because require an initiation, of course.
So, Selena, I understand that you have so many great, events coming up. You're coming back out to the U.S. My goodness. I mean, you have opportunities for people really to get involved with you and the work that the Mother Mantra and ancient shamanic yoga right now.
Oh, yes. I'll be next week on the 24th in San Jose for the SAND conference, the Science and Non-Duality conference. I will give a workshop and a speech at the SAND, and then I'll be in Seattle to present my book, The Mother Mantra, The Ancient Shamanic Yoga of Non-Duality, at a Seattle bookshop. You can find all the information on my website, and also I will give 2 seminars, 2 workshops in Seattle, one at the bookshop and another one in another place. You can find the address on my website, and yes, all the other events are on my website until the end of 2020. All the events are listed on my website.
Well, Selena, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show with us here today.
Oh, thank you to you, Marianne, for having me, and thank you for the listeners.
Well, thank you. It has been such an honor to spend this time with you and, of course, to talk about ancient shamanic yoga with you. Again, if you'd like to connect with Selene, you can at selene-calloni-williams.com for more information. We're so lucky that she's in the U.S. right now, and you can actually see her at the SANS conference this weekend. So it's taking place in San Jose. That'll be followed up with a book signing and special workshop at the East West Bookstore in Seattle on November 1st and November 2nd. Well, we're at the end of our time today. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in. You're listening to Moments with Marianne. And remember, make every moment count.
In a single moment, your life can change. Moments with Marianne is a transformative hour that covers an endless array of topics with the best of the best. Her guests are leaders in their fields, ranging from inspirational authors, top industry leaders, and business and spiritual entrepreneurs. Each guest is gifted and a true visionary, a recognized leader in her own work, and while teaching others to develop, refocus, and grow, Marianne will bring the best guest and sometimes a special surprise. Don't miss this. You never know just which moment will change your life forever. Moments with Marianne airs every Sunday, Monday, Thursday, and Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Pacific Time. Make sure to tune in and visit momentswithmarianne.com for more information.